Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay Sporting Goods, the Ieuter Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us on 32 stations across the great state of Michigan. You know, you hear these shows talking about, they got hundreds and hundreds of affiliates, but those are national shows. What show do you know of here in Michigan that has 32 different AM or FM stations, AM and FM stations, that carry the show? I think that's wonderful, and I have you to thank for it. It's because you have an interest in the outdoors. You express that interest to your local radio station, and the powers that be there, the program director or whoever, decides, yes, we do want an outdoor show on our air on the weekend. But that does make sense here in our state, right? We have this long-standing history and tradition of this outdoor lifestyle that is, it's not unique to Michigan because there are other states that share this heritage, but I'm not sure anybody has a stronger heritage, has more interest, has more people involved, has more natural resources, more Great Lakes coastline, more inland lakes, more public land, more critters. It's a great place to live. And every once in a while, I have to remind myself of this. I don't have to remind myself. It comes to the surface. I've been blessed to hunt and fish all over the place, not only all across North America, you know, not just the United States, but North America, Africa. And I come back to Michigan. There's just so much to offer here. Is it perfect? Is everything unicorns and good smelling stuff? No. But man, it's pretty darn good here. And by the way, welcome to the month of December. And how did that happen? We were just starting the month of Rocktober. No, we were just enjoying the 4th of July. And now it's December already. Which means the late deer seasons are in effect now. Muzzleloader season, although can you really even call it that anymore? The late archery season. I think there's some late special doe seasons in some part of the state. I can't even keep track of them anymore, honestly. And to be honest, I don't even try. There are so many different seasons and rules and regulations and things to keep track of that I only worry about. And this is a mistake on my part, I know, because I should be more well-versed in all of these things. But I tend to look at the area that I'm going to be hunting and make sure that what I'm doing in that area is legal, and I don't worry too much about anything else. I'm just going to stay legal. And I'm going to trust that you're going to look at the regulations and rules, and you're going to stay legal too. I have been out since we last talked. And again, this was during the firearm season. Sitting in a tree with my dart and crossbow. I know. Avery, why do you do that? I don't know. I just like it. I had wanted to sit on a food plot that had several big does coming in, and that's what I'm looking for is a big doe. But I couldn't get in there because the wind wasn't right. It was a cold, blustery day, west-northwest wind, pretty strong wind. But there was another stand I could sit in that would be perfect. So I got into that, and this is an area that earlier in the fall had a lot of acorns on the ground. Now they're gone, of course, but the deer are still filtering through there. I don't know if they're still looking for the occasional acorn or if it's because it's kind of a funnel between a pasture to the north and some real wet. It's not a wetland, but it's flooded timber to the south of me, so they tend to work their way through there. Very, very cold day. Wind was perfect. Conditions were perfect, and I thought, I'm going to shoot that big doe tonight. I mean, I had it all planned out, and maybe that's what the problem was. Ended up seeing just one fawn all night. And not even a goofy little stupid button buck. It was a doe fawn. Wasn't going to shoot her, of course. I was looking for her mama. Her mama never showed up. And we'll see. I'm not done yet, but I do have to admit my interest in this deer season is rapidly waning. I have gotten back to the point where I like hunting deer. Can I say I'm passionate about it? Do I absolutely love it? No. I like it. Do I like it enough to stay out there over the course of a 3-month season or more? I don't know. I would not want to be a whitetail in Michigan. They got a lot of things working against them. You know, of course, there's the CWD and the TB and the EHD, you know, all those letter diseases that are a negative factor. But you look at the UP, loss of habitat, deer yards. Once in a while, you get a bad winter that's hard on them. Wolves, predation. And then you've got hunters out there 3.5 months a year after them. The southern part of the state, we don't have the wolves. We got everything else. We got hunters out there almost 4 months a year chasing these critters. You know, I realize we have to do it. It's a wildlife management issue. It's a population control issue. It's got to be done. But I just don't have the passion for deer hunting that allows me to stay out there for 3.5 months, hunting 2 to 3 times a week, especially once it gets cold. And I realize in that late season, when it gets cold, if you can find a food source or a food plot, it can be very, very effective. I will be back out again. But I don't have that many more sits left in me for this season. I know Avery's a big sissy. Okay. All right. Now, if I could hunt bears 4 months a year, I'd be out there every day. I could be. That's a different ballgame. And this year, I mentioned this a couple of minutes ago about the muzzleloader season. Remember when the remember when the muzzleloader season used to be considered a primitive season? And we had flintlocks and we had percussion caps. And that's what we hunted with during the muzzleloader season. And then we got real fancy, and we got the inline muzzleloaders, which were much more accurate, much more reliable, much more dependable. And then we came up with these powders that weren't as corrosive, so you didn't have to worry about having the powder eat up your gun if you didn't clean it every time you shot it. Man, back in the old days, if you were a muzzleloader, a muzzleloading hunter, a muzzleloader, you were pretty hardcore. You were committed to it. What do we have this year in the southern part of the state? We still have a muzzleloader season, but you can use any legal method. You can take your 450 out there. You can take your 350 out there. And it's because the department wants to knock down the number of deer in much of the state, the southern part of the state especially. Coming up in our second hour, there's a question during the Ask Avery segment about a couple of questions actually about deer management. And we will get to those. But is there a topic that causes more? Well, here in Michigan, if you want to get a conversation, a heated conversation going, what do? You can talk about politics, you can talk about religion, and you can talk about deer management. Those are the 3 things that in our state people get passionate and heated and vocal about. And just like in politics and just like in religion, in deer management, there's no way you come out ahead of that conversation, that argument, because people have strong feelings all the way around. Let's see. We're continuing our ham for the holidays, courtesy of my friends from Michigan Brand Meat. Great company, MichiganBrand.net, MichiganBrand.net. By the way, if you go to that website, you can use the promo code Mike21, I think. Get a big discount there. But every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern on my Wednesday Night Live, which goes on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Now through the first of the year, we will give away a ham for the holidays. All you have to do is watch and comment, and you could win. And with Christmas just around the corner here now, too, and how did that happen? Once again, I mentioned this last week, but I want to follow up on it. The folks at Primal Tree Stands have put together some very, very deep discounts. You can take advantage of those online. If you go to the website, outdoorpregame.com, and use the promo code Mike20, you can get deep discounts on anything there, great Christmas gift ideas. And if you go to the Primal Tree Stands website, primaltreestands.com, and use the promo code Avery, you can get everything on that website at a discount, including that Wraith 270 see-through ground blind that I love so much for $199 and change. What a great, great Christmas gift that is. Coming up after the break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show, we're going to check in with Captain Mark Pieniozek of Real Fishin out on Saginaw Bay to follow up on this great late-season fishery. Karl Ieuter of the Ieuter Insurance Group reminds us how to take care of and insure our valuables. And then in hour number 2, Paul Schlafley checks in live from the Manistee River. Nick Green of MUCC. And in hour number 3, we'll check in with Richard P. Smith. And, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. The website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And the email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would invite you to check them out, take advantage, get in touch with me. Lots coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Battle Creek on WBCK. That's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in, let's go to Tawas, WIOS, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And let's jump over to the west side of the state. Let's go to Manistee, WMLQ, 97.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. For more info, check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com, linwoodbeachmarina.com. And Linwood Beach has been getting a surprising amount of activity lately, even as late in the year as it is. The walleye fishing on Saginaw Bay right now is surprisingly good. I haven't been out. Several of my friends have been out. My son James have been out. Several of my charter captain buddies have been out, including Captain Mark Pieniozek of Real Fishin. You can find him on a website and on Facebook as well as Real Fishin, REEL Fishin. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Cap, welcome back to the show. How are you? Let's try her again. You there, Cap? What do we got here, Pat?
Are you on speaker?
I thought I was. We're having,
Sounded like you made.
there we go. Oh, let's try her again, Cap. There we go. Try her again, Cap.
Thanks for having me back, Mike.
There we go. Well, I told you, and I'll tell our friends who are listening, we're having some phone problems here in the studio. You know this, Mark, but if people are listening, and I just have to press the right buttons on my cell phone to make this happen. So I appreciate your indulgence.
Not a problem. That's all part of it.
It is. Hey, listen, your history on Saginaw Bay I find fascinating. You literally grew up on that water, didn't you?
Actually, I did, Mike. My parents bought some property. Actually, it was from Hoyles back in the day when they dug the marina out, the dirt they used just south of the marina, and my parents bought that property and built a house there. So I've actually been fishing that thing since like 1965 or something like that.
Wow. Was there even water out there in 65? I figured it was still dirt.
There weren't any walleye, I can tell you that.
Well, that was actually my next question about how that fishery has evolved and changed. It's a different resource now, isn't it?
It really is. I've told this story many times, but so obviously there's some issues back in the 50s, and the walleye kind of left. And then the Saginaw Bay Walleye Club came in with the DNR, or I don't know exactly if they worked with the DNR or whatever, but they decided to make some ponds out off of the Calcallan River and decided to bring the walleye back. And I caught my first walleye in 1977 out ice fishing. I had no clue what they were, and it's actually a great story.
77. Now, see, I was thinking they reintroduced the walleye in the early 80s.
No, actually, we had them there in the 70s, and they were all big fish. I mean, 6, 7, 8 pounders. Every fish was a 6, 7, 8 pounder. I never even saw a 15-inch fish back then.
Wow. And you didn't know what it was at the time?
Well, this is what happened. I went into Frank's Great Outdoors to get some minnows to go perch fishing on the late ice in 5 to 6 feet of water off Balltail Road. I went in. Frank was there. He goes, "Mark, have you tried catching walleye?" I said, "I don't even know what a walleye is," which I know for the young kids these days is very funny, but back in the day, I didn't know. So he gave me a purple and silver dew jigger. I still have it when I go to seminars and I bring it out and show people. He gave it to me. I went out and jigged in the hole, and I kept getting snagged on the bottom. So I'm like, I'm over it. I'm done. And I got snagged like 10 times, 10, 12 times. So this old dude, probably my age now, he's, probably in his 60s, comes walking by with these 5 tails hanging out the back of the old wooden sled we all used to pull around. And I run up to him. I go, "Mister, what are those?" He goes, "Those are walleye." I go, "What's it feel like when you catch one?" He goes, "Like you're snagged on the bottom." But at that time, Mike, we only were pulling up a perch that were like a pound, pound and a half tops. Yeah. So I'd never felt anything that pulled like that. So he came over, showed me how to jig. We caught one. My first fish was just under 7 pounds. It was like 6.8 pounds, and I was hooked ever since.
Wouldn't you love to see fish that size these days routinely?
I would, but we are catching them right now. We've had some 10, 12 pounders caught right now out here, not consistently, but we are catching them. The average fish right now in our fall bite that's happening right now is probably 3 to 4.5 pounds.
Wow.
Which is tremendously bigger than what our summer fish is.
Well, yeah. So what's the difference for people who are casual anglers out there? What is the difference now? Where are these fish that you guys are catching now when we're out there in June and July when it's nice and warm and comfortable?
They all leave. They all go up north. So these big fish, they all leave. These big fish like cold water. They don't like warm water of the inner bay when it's 70, 80 degrees. They don't like it. They usually leave when it's around 60, 65 degrees. They leave. They don't like warm water. So they leave. They go all the way up to Alpena. Our fishery supplies Alpena, their fishery. All of our big fish, that's where they go. They go up north. So some of our fish have been known to go to Wisconsin and, up by the bridge. Some of our fish go down to Port Huron. So all of our big fish leave, and then they slowly migrate back.
So do you target these big fall fish the same way we do those little guys in the summer?
No, totally different. Right now we're running big body baits, big lip body baits. So I use there's a Salmo free diver. I'll use that. It's a 12. It dives down. It's got a big, huge bill and a really slow wobble. Excuse me. DDHJ12s, which is a Husky Jerk 12. They have a little smaller bill. They have a little quicker wobble. And then Bandits are really popular out here. They have a big bill and a slow wobble. All these lures have rattles in them, and we troll slow with them, anywhere from 35 to 65 feet back behind the board. Speed's about 1.2 to 1.3.
Yeah, that's a different program than the summer. But what about the areas you're fishing? Are you finding them in the same spots you do midsummer?
Not midsummer, but early spring and fall. So early spring and the fall, those fish goes in those same areas. So right now off of Linwood, you can go out in 16, 17 feet of water, and there's fish all along that break line because that's where that break line is. So these fish kind of stack up on that break line. Now, I'm a big fan of fishing in the dark as well. So in the dark, I will come into 13 to 10 feet of water and catch them in there at night. On the east side, we're catching them in 18 to 20 feet of water. So a little different depth, but still following the contours.
I got to follow up on this this night bite you're talking about. I've only done it a couple of times, but I've always thought I am, no pun intended, missing the boat here by not going out there after dark.
It is. So I've been doing the night bite thing for a long time. I know you've been around for a while, like myself, and so I used to go out with Captain Dan Mannion.
Yes, absolutely, you bet.
Danny and I are good friends, and I turned him on to going out at night on the Saginaw River. And we used to go out on the river at night and catch big fish, and during the day, they'd only jig up small fish that they had to for that. So it's a completely different fishery, and you get completely different fish at night than you do during the day.
I've wondered why you couldn't stand out there in the shallows with waders and cast to these fish after dark.
There are some local residents on the beach that do that.
Not enough for you. Now, are you actually running charters this time of year, Mark?
I am. I never quit. I'll be honest with you, I never quit. So I have charters. It looks like the weather's going to be good Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I have charters every day whenever it's nice out. That's the hardest part about this time of year is just the weather. It's tough to plan stuff when the weather is so up and down, snowing one day, 20 degrees, winds blowing 30. So it's tough. And I always try to be very cautious about that.
Yeah, especially this time of year. Yeah, that makes great sense. Now, I would suspect, though, you're not as much worried about the air temp, but it's the wind speed, right? That's what's going to keep you off the water this time of year?
100%. Because if my boat's all frozen up and no one can stand up on it because the deck's frozen, no one's having any fun. So I won't go out and stuff like that. But if it's nice out like it's supposed to be this weekend, I'll be out there every day.
And how late into the season will you stay after these big fish?
I will stay after them until it freezes up and I can't get at them anymore. If I can break ice at the launch, we'll break ice at the launch if we can get out and there's no ice out on the bay. The reason is, Mike, it's our best fishery that the Saginaw Bay has is right now. The biggest fish, we're getting limits of fish, but they're 3 to 10 pounds. It's our best fishery that we have.
That's quite a statement, Cap.
I know, but I'll stand by it all day because we catch big fish. Our average fish, like I said, is 3.5 to 4.5 pounds, and you get 8 of those. That's a lot of walleye meat that you're eating right there.
And is this year exceptionally good, or do you see this every fall this time of year?
So usually it's like this every year, but last year was not like this. And no one could really figure out what happened. I mean, don't get me wrong, we caught some fish, but not like we're doing this year or in years previous. Last year was a funny year. They kind of didn't come back till late. So we kind of missed out on that. I spent most of my time down in Erie and Lake St. Clair because our fishery wasn't that good here. But now I'm just going to stay right here because we have one of the best fisheries that rivals any place this time of year. Wow,
that's good to hear. We're talking with Captain Mark Pieniozek of Real Fishin'. You can find him online, his website, and on Facebook as well. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show, but a lot more I want to talk with Mark about. I want to pick his brain a little bit here, including how his waterfowl hunting season was and whether he will be out there chasing those fish on the ice. There are a lot of people out there who look forward to the ice fishing season when they can get after those big fish. Personally, I'm not one of them. I have nothing against it. But hey, listen, I got a big, beautiful angler quest. I can be out there all summer long chasing those fish. So I don't feel the need to be out there on the ice. But I know it can be very, very productive. So we'll wrap up our conversation with Captain Mark Pieniozek of Real Fishin'. And then after that, we'll wrap up the hour with Karl Ieuter of the Ieuter Insurance Group right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on WKYO, 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in the Sioux on ESPN 1400 WKNW, and you can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946, when Roland Boning invented Ferrule-Tite to glue broadheads to wooden shafts. These days, Boning continues to innovate with new products, new designs. For example, I just put on my dart and crossbow a top mount mounting system for a quiver, and I put a lynx quiver on there. So I've got a Boning lynx quiver attached to my dart and crossbow with a top mount mounting system, and it gets it up out of the way. It's secure. It's solid. I absolutely love it. So even after 75 years, Boning continues to come up with new products, and they're doing a great job. Plus, they're a Michigan-based company, and you know I love that. Check them out online at boning.com. That's BOHNING, boning.com. While you're online, of course, check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Head on over to Real Fishin'. You can find Real Fishin' on, it's a website and on Facebook as well. It's a part of the online presence of Captain Mark Pieniozek of Real Fishin', and he's with me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Mark, I love hearing the stories about Saginaw Bay. Now, I mean, I feel like I've been out there a long time, and I have, but I didn't grow up there, and that's why I love your insight and your input.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate, Mike. I mean, I grew up there. It was basically my playground. That's where I did everything growing up as a kid.
So does this love for that water extend to ice fishing? Are you running charters out there, trips out there in the winter?
So I have been in the past, but this year I actually have to go. And December 27th, I'm going in and getting a new knee put in. My right knee's been bad for 8 years. So it's my downtime right now. So I'm actually going in at the end of December. So I will not be out there, or my wife would kill me.
Yeah, you don't want to be out there on the ice after you've had a knee replacement right away. That's for sure.
No.
But I will tell you this, Cap. Purely personal, I've had 2 knees done, and you're going to feel so much better afterwards.
I can't wait, because that's what everyone tells me, the same thing, and I can't wait because the pain has been brutal here the last year.
Yep. Well, good. Good luck to you on that. What about your waterfowl season now? You're not only a walleye and a fishing guide out there, you're a waterfowl guide as well.
Yeah, I've duck hunted kind of my whole life here and there, and absolutely loved it. And then when I started my business, we have downtime, obviously in the fall. Fish move out of the Saginaw Bay. So I was going out duck hunting, and had a couple clients go, well, why aren't you taking us out duck hunting? And I just went, that's a good question. So I started the duck hunting thing, and we just have an absolute riot. A lot of things have changed with ducks since I was a kid. Things have changed. It's not even close to the same thing. But we do really well. We do a lot of layout shooting out on the Saginaw Bay and Lake Huron. And we also I've got a 27-foot pontoon boat that we'll take out, and we'll shoot from the pontoon as well.
That season's over now, though, isn't it?
It is over until December 11th and 12th. There's a split for 2 days, and we're booked up for those 2 days doing duck hunts.
Oh, gotcha. All right, so listen, we got some great fall fishing right now. It'll continue up until it ices up, and then hopefully into a good ice fishing season. But you mentioned the river. Are these big fish that are in the bay right now, are they going to spawn in the bay, or are they going to run the river to spawn?
So some spawn in the bay, some spawn in the river. Not all fish spawn in the river. I think that's something that everyone thinks, that every fish that comes into the Saginaw Bay to spawns in the river. That's not what happens. I'm going to say it's probably 50-50, where they'll spawn in the river, and other ones will spawn out on little reef beds and stuff that we have out there. And I think that surprises a lot of people, because not all fish run up the river.
So if you're going to get half of those big fish that are in the bay right now in the river, is that a good place to target?
They're starting to come into the river right now. The guys that are starting to catch some fish in the river, I personally have not been out there, but I've had some friends that have done really well. Up in the Tittabawassee, there's some fish up in the Tittabawassee right now. The hard part is getting up there because the water's so low in the Tittabawassee that you're only getting up there with a jet boat, jet drive boat, or an airboat. That's it.
Well, it's so rewarding and exciting for me to hear that these big fish are in Saginaw Bay right now because, I love that bay. It's my home water. I hear stories about these giant fish coming out of Lake St. Clair and Lake Erie, and I'm thinking, why are we getting left behind? But so it's good to know that we're not.
I think it's one of those things, Mike, that the guys that fish, I've been fishing this lake for a long, long time. With John Gilman and Stevie Vandemark. Those guys did it for years, and then I finally started doing it, and we'd be the only 3 boats out there. Honest to God, we'd be the only 3 boats. Now, if you go out there on a nice day on the weekend, and you go by Linwood Beach Marina, there's 300 to 500 trailers.
Well, that's good to hear, and listen, I appreciate the fishing report. Good luck on the knee replacement, and you and I'll stay in touch, I'm sure.
Sounds great, Mike. I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Always a pleasure. Captain Mark Pieniozek of Real Fishin'. You can find Real Fishin' on his website, and you can find him on Facebook as well. We'll take a break here for the Outdoor Magazine Show. On the Outdoor Magazine Show, when we come back, we'll check in with Karl Ieuter of the Ieuter Insurance Group. Listen, you've got all these outdoor toys. What happens if, God forbid, you'd lose them for whatever reason? Karl Ieuter will help us to keep straight on that right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. You can hear us in Port Huron on WPHM 1380 AM and north of the bridge in Newberry on WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website, MUCC.org. That's MUCC.org. And a reminder, if you want to save 25% on your MUCC membership, use the promo code MIKE, all caps, MIKE, and save 25% on your renewal or your first time signing up. I would highly recommend it. I also highly recommend that you take a serious look at all of your hunting and fishing gear. Think about what you have. Think about all the money you have tied up in that gear and what would happen if, God forbid, something happened that you lost that stuff. There is a way to protect it. Do what I do. I have dealt with the folks from the Ieuter Insurance Group for many, many years. I deal with them on a personal level and from a business perspective as well. They are a family-owned, Michigan-based company. You know I love that. They're hunters and anglers, and you know I love that as well. Karl Ieuter of the Ieuter Insurance Group is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Karl, welcome back. How are you?
Good. How are you today, Mike?
Hey, I'm doing great. Listen, how was your fall? Have you had a chance to get out and do anything fun?
It was, we have 3 girls, so we're very active in the sports scene, so no fun like hunting yet, but we definitely stay active in the sports scenes.
Well, and the season's not over. Listen, there's still time to get out there and put some venison in the freezer if that's what you want to do too, Karl.
Yep. My brother, who's a partner here, has put one in the freezer, so we're definitely...
Excellent.
He got out, I did not.
Well, listen, you guys, when we first talked years ago, you said, look, you love to work with hunters and anglers and outdoorsmen and women. That's a niche that kind of fits in very well with your company, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah. We have some specialty markets that just love to write insurance for those classes of businesses.
And those would be, charter captains, shooting ranges, gun clubs, things like that, right?
Exactly, yep. Anything outdoors, we can help you, whether, like you said, whether you're a captain, a guide, you have a hunting range, a shooting range, anything outdoors, we're here for.
And I appreciate that. And what about just from a personal perspective? Hunters and anglers have a lot of toys. They have a lot of gear. How do you protect that stuff, Karl?
Yeah, you have to be very careful because your homeowner's policy does not protect. Most policies do not have coverage for theft of guns and equipment. It's very limited, like say $2,500. So what you need to do to protect yourself is talk to your agent, get a list of all the guns and bows and fishing equipment you have, and what we call is schedule it on your insurance policy. So list it out and make sure that it does get covered. So if someone were to, you're at hunting camp and they break into your car and take all your guns, that you do have coverage, because you can have an awful lot of expensive equipment in your car.
Oh boy,
or at camp.
That's for sure. But let's go back to this. If these guns are in my house and I get a fire in my house, does my homeowners then cover that?
Yeah, most policies would cover that because the fire is a covered peril. So it's more limited to like if someone broke in and stole them, which so your guns would be covered in the house for a fire.
For a fire. But if they're away from my house, as they're likely to be, that's when I have to worry about that extra coverage?
Correct. Or if someone broke into your house, theft is usually limited to, say, $1,500 to $2,500 total for guns. So if they were able, say your gun safe wasn't locked or something like that, then they could get quite a bit of equipment, and then you would be out without insurance coverage unless you had it scheduled on your insurance policy.
Does that scheduling then transfer over to my fishing gear? If I look at the rods and reels and baits, things like that, that can add up really fast.
Yeah, especially if you have lots of rods and reels, it is good to list them out on your policy. So if you do have a claim, there's no questions about the value you and the insurance company agreed on, and that you do have coverage for all those. So yeah, you should definitely add those also to most insurance policies.
So do you want a list of every gun, model, make, and serial number, and fishing rods and baits, or can I take pictures, or how do I document this, Karl?
Yeah, I mean, a list with serial numbers is the best when you buy them, or receipts. But pictures are amazing. So, so you can remember what you did and didn't have. But yeah, if you send us pictures, so then we can just attach those to the file. But really for the guns, I don't need as much as the rod and reels, but the guns, they'd like to know the make, model, serial number, and the value of the guns.
All right, Karl.
Keep a little Excel sheet, that would be great.
I'm going to get that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get that for you. But let me this is between us. We're going to keep. My wife Denise doesn't have to know the full extent of what I've got. Okay, just that's between you and me.
No problem. That's all confidential.
All right, Karl, I appreciate that. Karl Ieuter of the Ieuter Insurance Company. Check him out online at Ieuter.com, and that's IEUTER, Ieuter.com. Appreciate your time, Karl, and thanks for protecting me and my family. We'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show for the top of the hour. When we come back, Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters in Manistee. Hey, listen, maybe he needs some good insurance coverage. I will send him to the folks at Ieuter as well. Karl Ieuter, Ieuter Insurance, Ieuter.com, IEUTER.com. Paul Schlafly coming up after the break.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Ieuter Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, heard on 32 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And I say radio, because Outdoor Magazine is, first and foremost, a syndicated 3-hour outdoor radio show. It is scheduled, it is recorded, it is produced, and it is distributed as a radio show. And I think the best way to listen, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station. There you get your local news and weather and sports, even your local commercials, your ads. Maybe there's a sale you want to take advantage of. But if you can't listen to Outdoor Magazine Radio on your local radio station, isn't it nice to know that there's a podcast version of the show as a backup? Now, where do you hear that podcast? I think really I used to go through the whole list. I'll just tell you, you can hear it on the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, on my social media outlets, even on YouTube. Anywhere that you get your podcasts from, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine Radio show. While I'm doing some blatant self-promotion, though, I need to make you aware that I also do podcasts for monthly podcasts for offshore tackle, angler quest boats, polar craft boats, shadow hunter blinds. In fact, when we're done here in the studio, we will record this week's offshore tackle podcast as well. All right. So speaking of fishing, I told you in the earlier hour how great the walleye fishing is on Saginaw Bay right now as we checked in with Captain Mark Pieniozek. But you know what? Steelhead fishing is always great across the state this time of year as well. And when I think of fishing, I think of my friend Captain Paul Schlafley, who I think is on the Manistee River right now as we're talking. Paul, welcome back. How are you?
Oh, doing good, Mike. Doing good. Nice day out. No wind. Wind isn't blowing, so that's a bonus.
Why is that a problem? I can understand if you're out in the big water, but when you're there in the river, why does that matter?
Oh, it gets cold. I mean, it depends where you're at in the river, but you get the wind blowing. It gets chilly sometimes, so it depends. It's just nice not having the wind blowing. That's for sure.
But you've got that.
If you're out, fishing out in the environment.
You've got that heated jet sled, though, right?
Yeah, it's heated and you got to cover, but you still got to get out and fish. So, unless we're running plugs, sometimes you can throw the plugs out and I have to really get out and fish. But if I'm fishing like floats, bobbers, beads and stuff or spawn, I kind of get to get out and do hands-on fishing. So it can get cold this time of year doing that.
And what are you fishing? What are you fishing today as we're talking, Paul?
We're fishing steelhead. I'm kind of been running plugs and running bobbers. And we've only hit one fish so far. It's been slow. We caught one on a plug right off the get. Now we're just kind of moving around trying to find something. But sometimes hopefully it'll be a later bite. Sometimes it's better in the afternoon this time of year. But it's early yet, so we got a lot of time.
Yeah, and I don't want to jinx you, but there are very few days when you come off the river and don't at least have contact with several fish, right?
Yeah, generally. I mean, a normal trip, we'll get 3, 4, or 5 on a really good day. It might be way more than that, but realistically 3 to 5 fish. And if how many bites you get, just depends how many you land. But steelhead can be tough sometimes. It just depends on the day. No weather conditions. Sometimes get some ornery and they don't want to bite that good, but they should be biting good today the way the weather is.
What are you looking for? I mean, obviously lack of wind, but water temp, color, levels, that's all a factor too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right now we got low, clear water. The river's real clear and low, so I don't know if we have a lot of fish coming in right now. I think they're just kind of trickling in. And then, the water got cold too, so it kind of has some facts on what's going on day to day. So this depends on what the conditions do from day to day. But right now we're not getting any rain, snow, and cold, so it's we're fishing low water conditions. So right now we're fishing a lot of bobbers.
One thing I've learned about you, Paul, is that listen, you're willing to adapt. I mean, you're one of those guys who has literally spent your entire life out there, either on Lake Michigan or on that river. You do it full time, and you've done it really since you were a kid, even.
Yep, I grew up doing it. Kind of blessed to be around it my whole life. So it's been a good part of my life. That's for sure. 30 some years. Since 84, I've been chartered. 83 since chartering. So quite a while. But Yeah, the fishing's changed a lot since when I first started guiding in the river. And like you say, nowadays in the cold water, we fish a lot of floats, different jigs. We'll run wax swimming jigs as the winter goes. We'll start running a lot more jigs. Them work real good in the winter months. But just depends on what kind of winter we get. Who knows what the weather's going to be.
Who knows? Yep. Who knows? And listen, I'll talk more about this river fishery in a minute, but I got to go back here a step. How was your salmon fishery on the big lake? I mean, we caught I didn't get involved, but it's a state. We got a new state record king salmon. And Paul, I never thought I would see that in my lifetime. I've been expecting a new state record walleye, but I never expected a king.
I know it was a good year. I mean, the conditions were good for us. The water was pretty stable. We didn't get a lot of lake rollovers, so it really helped our fishing, especially in August. And the last few years, we've had a lot of north winds that kind of messed our fishing up. But yeah, the fish are definitely bigger this year. I think my biggest was 35 pounds, so there was definitely a lot of 30-pounders caught. Yeah, it was a really good year. The spring fishing was good. We had some really good fishing in May and June, and for the salmon, and of course we had caught a lot of lake trout too, lake trout fishing, and we did get a lot more steelhead this year in the lake too. We've seen a lot more steelhead showing up, but so today we're not seeing them, but we'll hopefully find some.
Multiple 30-pound kings. That's a pretty good season, though.
Yeah, exactly. And, it seemed to be a lot of bait fish. On the graph, we marked a lot of bait. The fish were full of bait. Hopefully we'll keep seeing that, and keep our fishery stable, keep our size of our fish up. So.
Well, is it these days, is it an either or? Are you either going to see a smaller number of big kings or a whole bunch of smaller kings, or can we have both?
We could have both. I mean, I think, if we get a good natural reproduction in a year, we could see good numbers. We did get a lot of small salmon this spring, so I did see a lot of good numbers of smaller salmons, like 2-pounders, so that was good. That's looking good for the future. So hopefully hopefully we get a good natural reproduction year. So because we do get a lot of natural fish, so. In our system.
Do you see those 2-pound fish? Do you see those out in the big lake? Are you catching them on riggers and spoons? Or are those river fish that you're coming into contact with?
Lake this spring, like in May and June, we're getting a lot of them. We're catching them on spoons right out in the lake. So they're young fish, just growing up. So just, hopefully see them coming back in a few years. So, but I did see good numbers of that. Everybody was catching quite a few of them.
Remind me, do kings spend 3 summers out there in the lake, or is it 4?
Usually the bigger mature ones are 4, but they will come in earlier than that. There's 2 and 3-year-olds will come in, and you will see a lot of 3-year-olds go up. But generally, it's a 4-year cycle. But there is fish that do come in, at a younger age, especially some of your males. Seems like some of the males, you'll get a lot of small males that are younger fish. Precocious fish that come in early, so it is kind of they've been said that there's a lot of fish that run up at 3-year-old too. So the DNR said that just by the micro tags and on them and stuff that they do.
Well, and all summer long you chased those kings, you chased trout, you chased steelhead, you were after kings in the river earlier in the year, but right now, I mean, it's steelhead. Steelhead's what you're looking at for the next several months, right?
Yeah, through the whole winter, we'll pretty much target steelhead till spring, till like April. Our brown trout fishery's been kind of up and it's been on a downtrend here the last few years, so. Hopefully we'll see some browns this spring, but this coming spring, hard saying, from year to year it's different.
But those steelhead are spawning in the spring. What are they doing coming up in the river this time of year?
Just staging. A lot of them will stay in the river all winter. Kind of just come up and spend a winter in the river. So could be a water temp thing. I don't know, but some fish will spawn early, but most of them are in April spawn, but they start coming in the river in October, early October, or even in September. So it kind of steelhead in the system throughout the whole year. Even in the summertime, they get a summer run of steelhead. So it's always steelhead in here, it seems like. So at some point.
We're talking with Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters in Manistee. His website is riversidecharters.com. That's riversidecharters.com. We've got to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, I want to talk with a lot more with Captain Paul about how he targets these wintertime steelhead in the rivers. You got to be tough to be out there and fishing, right? Paul keeps you as comfortable as possible, but you are out there in the wintertime. You're out there in the cold temps. You're out there in the wind. But if you're tough enough and on the right day, you can catch a lot of fish, and Paul is one of the best out there. Again, his website, riversidecharters.com. That's riversidecharters.com. We will take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine show. Hang with us more with Captain Paul Schlafley right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, AM and FM, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister, 92.1 WTWS. And you can hear us in Lansing on WILS, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change the skin for the season you're in. VersaSkins, a family-owned, Michigan-based company that makes top-quality hunting gear. But the cool thing about them, other than the fact that they're warm and well-made, and they're going to last you a long, long time, is they've got this system where you can snap on and zip on an outside skin on your hunting clothes. For example, when I was out there in firearm season, I put a blaze orange skin on my VersaSkins. Now I can take that blaze orange off because I'm out there bow hunting. Very nice product. Just change the skin for the season you're in. The website, versaskins.com, versaskins.com. While you are online, I would encourage you to check out the website of Captain Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters, riversidecharters.com. And Paul is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line as he's on the Manistee River. I think you're on, what, the lower stretch of the river today, Paul?
Yeah, I'm fishing down lower. That's kind of where I live, so it's kind of target this area, especially when the river's low and clear like it is right now. It's kind of where I stay.
And how many people do you have on board with you, and where are they from today, Paul?
I got two. Where are you guys from? What? Traverse City.
Oh, they're Michigan
Something
guys.
north.
Michigan guys.
Pardon?
Michigan guys.
Yeah, Michigan guys. Yep. Michigan guys. Yep. Just had one on and lost it. But hopefully things will get fired up here. But
Hey, listen, speaking of Michigan guys and clients, you had the Grillo boys from Michigan brand on, I think it was last week. You guys did real well.
Yeah, we limited out. Yeah, it was a really good day. It was fun. It was pretty good fishing. It's kind of slowed down since then. Since it got colder out, it got a little bit slower for me. I don't know what, just getting kind of in that transition time where the, winter time months, water's getting cold, so fish are trickling in, I think. Not very many big numbers, but there's fewer around.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. If you're fishing now at this time of the year, if you're fishing fish that have been in there for a while and you're waiting for what, a warm water or a snow runoff or whatever to bring a bunch of fish back in?
This time of year it's hard to say. We're not, we could get a thaw, but generally the fish are just trickling in and coming in. You never know. One day you can come up here and hit a whole bunch of them, Every day's kind of different. And a lot of it depends on how much fishing pressure. There is guys fishing. So it seems like there's more people fishing nowadays than there used to be through this time of years. But people find out you can catch them all winter. So you will see a lot more guys fishing them, targeting them. So it does affect your catch a little bit when you get a lot of, a certain amount of fishing pressure.
No, is that because the fish get, I hate to use this term, do they get smarter or do they just get shy to the presentation, or just boat traffic squirrels them up?
Probably smarter. Like I said, it's kind of like deer hunting. You mess with them a little bit. Don't take long to make them harder to get, harder to get. But like you say, there's fish coming in every day, so every day's kind of different. you never know when you're going to have a really good day and a slow day. But it does seem like the afternoons have been a little bit better for me when it warms up a little bit. The fishing, so hopefully that'll be the case today.
So what are you running right now? What do you got out there in the water right now?
Right now we got, you got floats on, bobbers, whatever you want to call them. But that's what we just hooked this one on. And I was running plugs earlier. We did get one on a plug. And the plugs have been working. Some of the guys I talked to have been doing pretty good on plugs. But I kind of mix it up. Just some days I get them on one thing better than others. So you just got to keep playing around until you find something that works for you.
Plug's an easier way to fish, isn't it? At least for your clients.
Yeah, plugs are easier. When it's colder weather, they're definitely a lot easier to fish. You don't have to really handle the rods or nothing like you do with the bobbers. You got to be right on the rod and setting the hook and stuff. But it's actually pretty nice out today. It's a lot better than it was yesterday. Yesterday was brutal, 30-mile-an-hour winds. So
oh boy,
wind does kind of affect you.
Yeah. So I think you told me this earlier, but remind me, what are you using for bait under those bobbers or floats today, Paul?
Right now I got beads on right now. I've been running just kind of this time of year. I'll run beads or spawn. We just had this one on a bead, kind of a yellow looking bead, but just kind of imitating an egg, trying to imitate an egg. But, we will run spawn. I haven't ran any spawn today. I might try some here in a little bit, but, salmon eggs that I got tied up. That's kind of what I'm running right now. Later as the season goes, I will start running a lot more jigs, waxworms and jigs and stuff like that. Under floats. They're pretty effective, especially upriver more.
So this bead is just a single plastic bead, no live bait at all?
Yeah, just a bead, just imitates an egg. Just looks like an egg to them. Different colored beads. You got yellow and oranges and greens. And yeah, it just looks like an egg to them. They're kind of their natural feed, what they feed on. So that's kind of a natural thing for them. So it's kind of one of the things we try to target.
And then how far underneath that float are you running that bead or that bait, Paul?
Depending on the hole, I usually try to keep it just near the bottom, or sometimes even bouncing the bottom. So like this hole I'm fishing in right now is probably about 10 foot. So I got it, I'm right there with 10-foot leads, trying to keep it right near the bottom, kind of bouncing along, trying to look like an egg bouncing on the bottom or just off the bottom.
And so your guys are probably running spinning rods, and they're casting upstream then and letting this thing just float through the hole or the run? You can do that. A lot of guys will cast spinning rods, float bobbers, or fly rods. I'm just fishing behind the boat with like level line reels. So it's like a center pin, same theory as a center pin, just going out. Okay.
So you're just fishing behind the boat, so you got to set it. And once it goes down and kind of reel, you got to reel quite a bit to catch up to them. But it's just easier. You don't have to cast, do a lot of casting.
So what are you doing? You letting this thing free spool back through the run?
Yeah, just free spool with the current, natural flow. Trying to keep it with the current, and just run it down. Same theory as like a lot of guys will use center pin reels.
Yeah,
it's the same principle. Just going with the current.
So, do you have to keep any thumb pressure on this to keep it from free spooling, or just the current will just slowly bring it out?
You have to adjust it. There's a tension on it. Do you want to adjust it so it's just going with the current, so it's not going too fast, so your reel doesn't go too fast? So you got it set. You set your reel so it goes with to tension you to where you want it, your desired tension on it. Bass reels got a tension, how much line lets out and stuff.
And then how far downstream do you let this bait go then?
Not real far. I don't like to go too far because it's harder. The farther you get down, the harder it is to set the hook. You could run it 100 yards if you wanted to, but realistically, not real, 30 yards, not a long drift.
Okay.
Just because it's harder to set the hook. I'd rather have it closer to the boat than farther away. It's just easier to get a hook set.
So is
to pick up all that line.
So what's the bite like? Is this a slow, gradual take, or do they still hit it pretty hard this time of year, even in the cold water?
Usually this also it'll go down faster, and your bobber will just disappear. So you got to be paying attention all the time. You can't be daydreaming and looking at other stuff. I mean, you want to be on them quick because you don't have that much of time to get them. I mean, you got a short window to get that hook in them, or otherwise they'll spit it right out. So, and the guys I got today are pretty quick.
They're good guys.
But we're not getting many hooks. Not many bites today yet. But yeah, you got to really be paying attention fishing this method. We're like, if you ran plugs, they hit it. They're there. It's kind of the hook set the hook themselves basically. But this kind of fishing, you got to be really paying attention. And
what's the fight like when one of your clients gets the hook into a jaw of a steelhead in the river this time of year? What's it like?
If the water's real cold, a lot of times they're kind of lethargic sometimes. But that one we got today, he was jumping and he's pretty good battle on. It's not quite the fight like it is in the fall where the water's warmer, but they still fight really good. It's just as the water was warmer, the fish will jump a lot more. And this time of year, they kind of start a little bit more lethargic. Don't jump quite as much as they normally do in the fall. But the one we got this morning, he come out of the water pretty good.
Now, are you fishing then right on through all winter long, right until springtime again?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I mean, depending on the weather. I mean, I'm not going to fish if it's Arctic weather out, but I will have guys that schedule trips in January, but sometimes I got to reschedule them because of the weather. And I do have guys I'll call when it does get good, and they'll come up and call them. But it just depends on the winter. Who knows? Last winter, January was pretty mild. February was cold.
Does ice play a factor? I mean, does that river ice up?
Oh, the river will freeze, yeah. It generally won't freeze at the dam, but below the dam to hybrids you can fish generally, but it will freeze. There's definitely times you can't fish when it's froze up. But it can be really good fishing when it does open up, though. That's when it gets really good sometimes, when it first opens up.
So is the best way, Paul Schlafley, to get in touch with you, go to the website, riversidecharters.com, riversidecharters.com. I know it's got your phone number on there. Can they book trips and everything right from there?
Yep. You can either email me or usually my wife does all my bookings, and you just call the number there and she'll hook you up if you want to go fishing.
Perfect. That sounds good. The website is riversidecharters.com, riversidecharters.com. Paul, listen, I know it's a pain for you to talk with us when you're on the water and you got clients and you've been very generous with your time, but I'm going to let you go, and I certainly do appreciate your time. Good fishing, and go get some fish for these guys.
All right, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it, buddy. I was hoping we'd hook one. We usually do when we're talking.
We usually do. It just didn't happen today. It's just one of those times. All right, Paul, good fishing. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right. Paul Schlafley of Riverside Charters. Riversidecharters.com is the website. Really, he is one of the best guys out there. As he said, he's been fishing since he was a kid. He got his license when he was a kid. He fishes the big water all summer long, and then he fishes the river in the spring all the way through the winter, for the fall, all the way through the winter into the spring again. Riversidecharters.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll check in with Nick Green of MUCC. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if they've got something that they want to get the word out or just routine staying on top of things. We'll find out about that, and then we'll wrap up the hour with this week's Ask Avery segment. That's all coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Manistee on WTIQ. That's 1490 AM, 95.3 FM, two of our newest affiliates. Appreciate Mike Daniels working with us to get 6 new stations in the UP. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC, 660 AM and 95.3 FM. And you can hear us, where else? You can hear us, in Houghton Lake on 98.5, Blowtorch Station, powerful station, 98.5 WUPS. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Rapid River Knives. Rapid River Knife Works in the UP, in Rapid River. They make custom-made, handmade knives for every use. Fillet knives, skinning knives, pocket knives, kitchen knives. They do a great job. Check them out online at rapidriverknifeworks.com. I've got a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now, as I always do. rapidriverknifeworks.com, or head to their showroom in Rapid River and see for yourself what I'm talking about. They would make an absolutely great Christmas present for sure. rapidriverknifeworks.com. Turning our attention now to my friends at MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs. The website mucc.org, mucc.org. Use the promo code Mike, all caps, MIKE, to save 25% on your membership. Nick Green is their Chief Information Officer, joining us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Nick, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Always a pleasure. What's going on in your world, my friend?
We are kind of preparing for the December Wolf Management Advisory Council next Tuesday, and then the next meeting of the Natural Resources Commission will be on Thursday. So we're kind of working a lot on the Walleye Amendment introduced by Commissioner Kozad, still working on the Steelhead Amendment introduced by Nyberg, and then looking kind of towards the wolf meeting next week.
Holy cow, lots to talk about. Let's talk about wolf first and foremost. Is this a precursor to an imminent wolf hunt anytime soon in Michigan?
You know, our department has said that they're still kind of in limbo waiting for the feds to figure out what they're going to do with the lawsuits in California. So for those that may not be aware, there were some anti-hunting organizations who filed suit against the feds in a California court challenging the delisting. You know, until that is sorted out, as we've seen throughout the last decade, there's not a lot of worth in going forward with trying to get a hunt on the books, because then you're just going to do a lot of work that often will have to change. So we're kind of waiting to see what the feds do with that. Nonetheless, our Management Advisory Council, who our Executive Director, Amy Trotter, is a part of, they're continuing forward with creating their plan and their recommendations for the department. And then the NRC is expected to look at what a hunt would look like in determining all of that kind of later on in 2022.
2022. Speaking of NRC, you mentioned walleye and steelhead. What's going on there, Nick?
So the Commissioner Kozad has proposed an amendment to a fisheries order that would open up the lower Saginaw River from Center Road down to the mouth to walleye harvest during the spawning season that's traditionally been closed. MUCC Fisheries Committee met last night. No formal resolution came from the meeting, but there was some concern. We did have Lake Huron Basin Coordinator Randy Claremont from the DNR there, and he noted that in 2020, we saw a decline in walleye catch and harvest in the Saginaw Bay and its watersheds. And in 2021, that number is again expected to decline even lower. So we're seeing at least a 2-year trend, you know, going downward of walleye catch and harvest. And what we don't know, is that related to dam failures? Is that something indicative of the population? So kind of where our fisheries committee left it was, you know, can we get the NRC to maybe hold on to this for a year, or just kind of hit the pause button and wait and see what the data tells us about the populations?
And who wants to open this up, Nick?
This is Commissioner Kozad's amendment. You know, the Saginaw Bay walleye fishery is robust and has been growing. If you look at the long-term trends over time, we're something at like 6 million walleye in the bay. You know, we decreased our perch limits because of the predation from walleye. So that fishery has certainly been increasing and is robust. But we have these couple years of, it looks like, declining data. So that's kind of where we need to find kind of what the line is here and kind of tow it for a minute until we see what the data is doing.
Well, we voted for sound scientific wildlife management, right? That's got to be the premise.
It does. You know, and our MUCC supports commissioners having the autonomy to bring these amendments forward. But we also very much support our department, who has to carry out these rules and regulations and have to manage the fishery based on these decisions. So we understand both sides, and we can kind of, you know, sympathize with both when they're trying to get priorities across.
And Nick, real quick, what about steelhead?
The steelhead regulations are still likely going to be voted on in December, so that would lower the bag limit from 3 to 1 on select Northwest Michigan streams during the spawning season. We've heard some pushback from anglers. We've heard a lot of support from anglers too. It's not real clear how the commission will decide, but that will likely be voted on next Thursday.
Nick, a lot to keep track of, and that's why I appreciate the fact that you guys at MUCC are there in Lansing and beyond to kind of keep an eye on all of these things. And I'll look forward to talking again soon, and we'll see what happens.
Thanks, Mike.
Nick Green of MUCC, the website MUCC.org. That's MUCC.org. Again, if you want to save 25% on your MUCC membership, use the promo code Mike, all caps, MIKE, and save 25% on your membership. We'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment, we'll talk more about that, and we'll answer those questions. I think it's a twofer this week, if I remember correctly. And then we'll move on into hour number 3 with Richard P. Smith and wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. So there's lots coming up yet this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Traverse City on WTCM. That's 580 AM. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in Escanaba on WCHT, 600 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. And that's why they like to bring the Ask Avery segment to you each week. The Ask Avery segment is a chance for you to get involved in the content of the show. And it's your chance to either ask me a question directly, something you'd like me to answer, or a question that you'd like me to forward or pass along to somebody in the DNR, or MUCC, or NRC, or something like that. And the way the Ask Avery segment works is, and I think the best way to do it, is for you to send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. By the way, you can also send me an email through the Mike Avery Outdoors Facebook page. But send me an email, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And that's what Paul Stawicki did this week. Paul Stawicki said, Mike, he said, I heard that starting next year, the DNR, we're going to have a muzzleloader season during the month of October, as the true muzzleloader season in December has been taken away. Have you heard about this? Have you heard of this? Interesting question, Paul. And the reason he brings this up is talking about, the true muzzleloader season being taken away, because in Zone 3 this year, you can use anything. You can use any legal rifle at all. More on that in a minute. I posed this question to Chad Stewart of the DNR. He said, hey, Mike, nothing has been developed or even proposed for next year's deer regulations. Ultimately, he said, we'd like to take a break from deer regulation for a couple of years and see how the current structure operates. Inevitably, something seems to come up that someone deems needs to be addressing, but there is nothing developed for next year at this time. So going back to your question, Paul, about a muzzleloader season during the month of October, there is nothing in the works at this time at all. So this is one of these things that starts to be a rumor. People start to talk about, the muzzleloader season, the changes in the muzzleloader season, when they take it to the next step. No, there is nothing concrete, nothing firm, nothing even being proposed or talked about at this time from the DNR, or as far as I know, the NRC either. Going to Chad Stewart's points about wanting to take a break. Deer regulations used to be on, well, ideally they're on, it's either a 2 or 3 year cycle. I don't remember which. Put these new regulations out there, implement them, see how hunters react to them, see how it affects the deer population, to get a feel for things before coming along and changing them again before they've had a chance to see how the new regulations, the new guidelines, the new plans, the new policies work out. So that's what they'd like to do, and I think that's what they're going to try to go ahead with. Now, going back to the second part of this, I've had a lot of people asking me this. I told you it was a twofer this week. Can a 450 or 350, the 450 Bushmaster or the 350 Legend, be used during muzzleloading season this year? in Zone 3, any legal firearm can be used. So, yes, you can use your 450, you can use your 350, you can use your inline muzzleloader. Isn't it interesting how muzzleloading season has changed? It used to be a traditional or a primitive season. Muzzleloading used to be called a primitive season. Can you imagine that? We had percussion cap and we had flintlocks, and that was it. And if you hunted with a muzzleloader, you were pretty hardcore because they weren't very reliable, they weren't extraordinarily accurate, and it was indeed more of a primitive season. These days, you've got the inlines, which are much more accurate, much more reliable. We've got different powders, different pellets that aren't as hard, as corrosive on your gun, so it's not as labor intensive as it used to be. And beyond that, now in the southern part of the state, you can use your 450, you can use your 350, you can use your shotgun, you can use anything you could legally use during the firearm season. So in effect, it's an extension of the firearm season. The goal these days of the DNR, and I'm not talking out of school and I'm not talking badly about them, they've stated this goal, that they want to reduce the size of the herd, at least in certain parts of the state. I hope they don't want to reduce the size of the herd in the UP, but in the southern part of the state, they want to reduce the size of the herd. And that's what these regulations are designed to do. Provide more opportunity and reduce the size of the herd. I want to thank the folks at Security Credit Union for helping to make each week's, they don't help to make, they make each week's Ask Avery segment possible. If not for them, we wouldn't be able to do the segment. So check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. And remember, if you want to send me a question, if you want to ask me a question for each week's Ask Avery segment, send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com or click on the email link on the Facebook page, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You could ask me a question, something I've been involved in, something I have some knowledge in. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in hunting or fishing or wildlife or biological issues. I have some thoughts. I have some experience. And I do have some thoughts, some experience on like walleye fishing, turkey hunting, bear hunting, those types of things. I have some knowledge on, but I'll never put myself out there as an expert, because what happens when you consider yourself an expert? You also put a target on your back, and I got enough targets without intentionally adding more. We'll take a break. When we come back at hour number 3, Richard P. Smith and wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Ieuter Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. 32 stations across the great state of Michigan. I am here for 3 hours every week talking about the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan. Hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and some conservation issues and some wildlife issues. And occasionally we talk to folks in Lansing, MUCC, DNR, NRC, but really and some wild game cooking. And we will wrap up this hour with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. Before we get to that, though, I want to turn my attention to one of the most interesting guys I know. His name is Richard P. Smith. He is a name that has been around the outdoor industry, the outdoor world here in Michigan for decades. I consider him to be an expert black bear hunter, an expert whitetail hunter, and really a very knowledgeable guy with all things when it comes to the outdoors in the UP, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Richard, welcome back. How are you?
I'm great, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing real good, real good. Listen, we catch you now as you're on the road, right? You're driving.
Well, I'm stopped right now, but I'm in Baraga on the way home.
On the way home from trip back to the Keweenaw?
Yeah, deer camp. Even though I know a lot about deer hunting, nothing trumps luck when it comes to deer hunting. And I had my share of luck during gun season. I made one of my most unusual and interesting kills this year. And something I've heard other people tell stories about it. When the rut is on, bucks do stupid things sometimes, and it works to the favor of hunters. And it happened for me this year.
Let's hear the story. What happened?
I had to change some batteries in one of my trail cameras. The batteries were getting low at one of the baits I had been hunting. And, of course, for your listeners in the Lower Peninsula, it's still legal to hunt deer over bait in the Upper Peninsula. I was crouched down, changing the batteries in this trail camera. I had completed the task, put the new batteries in, turned the camera on. I stood up and turned around, and there's a buck standing there staring at me 25 yards away. I fortunately had brought my rifle with me when I went to change the trail camera batteries, and I had it handy. However, I had to reach for it. I never imagined the buck would stay there long enough for me to grab the rifle, but it did. I grabbed the rifle, raised it, and shot him. Dropped him right in his tracks. Killed him instantly. One of the easiest, most surprising kills I've ever made on whitetails.
I love hearing stories like that.
I do too, and I've heard them from other hunters, and have never had anything like that happen to me previously until now.
Now, I know there's no way of getting in that buck's mind, in that buck's brain, but what do you think was going on there? Was it right during the heart of the rut? Is that what it was?
Yes. It was at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on November 20th. What I suspect was the deal is a hot doe had been to that bait prior to my arrival. And the trail the buck was on came up out of a creek bottom. So he was probably on the trail of a hot doe, came out of the creek bottom, and I was crouched at the bait, and I was fully camouflaged except for an orange hat. And I also had a tarsal gland from a buck I shot last year in my pocket. The buck may have thought I was the doe he was trailing, and he just was totally confused. That's my take on it.
Oh, it's a perfect storm. Everything came together just right.
Exactly. I spent 5 hours during the morning on a stand without seeing a single deer.
Wow. Well, that country you're hunting there in the Keweenaw is pretty remote, isn't it? I mean, do you even see other hunters where you're at?
Oh, yeah, I do see other hunters. It isn't real remote, but there are parts of the Keweenaw that I do hunt where I seldom see hunters. And one of the things I like about hunting the Keweenaw is the snow that comes sometimes earlier than anywhere else in the UP. And I do some snow tracking once in a while, and that's a real change of pace for me. I enjoy doing it, and I spent 3 hours trailing a big buck yesterday morning, in fact, the last day of gun season. We got some fresh snow, and you really get an appreciation for how much country those big woods bucks cover when you follow their tracks, and you learn where they go. There's all kinds of things you learn. One of the most important things is that you learn to appreciate letting the deer come to you in stand hunting versus going to them, which takes a hell of a lot of time and effort.
Well, your odds are just absolutely stacked against you when you try to do something like that, aren't they, Richard?
They are. I have never killed a buck snow tracking it. I've shot at a couple of them that I've missed, one of which I swear I was on him when I pulled the trigger, but there must have been a branch that deflected the bullet. It is challenging. It's difficult to do, but you learn a lot about the deer you're hunting, and you have a chance of taking a bigger buck than you've ever taken in your life, snow track.
Now, are these bucks that you had seen and then followed, or you just got on the track never having seen the buck?
I just got on the track. I drive roads in the morning after fresh snow, find a big track. Usually I'll drive a road and see how many buck tracks I see and pick the biggest one or in one that's in the best location. And the one I trailed yesterday morning, I trailed him until 11:30. I started at 8:30, spent 3 hours on his track, and he kept going downhill toward Lake Superior. And I knew I had a long walk back uphill. So at 11:30, I left his track and headed back uphill. It took me an hour and 45 minutes to get back to the vehicle.
Now, for folks who haven't done this before or aren't really, experts when it comes to deer hunting and deer tracking, how do you know that's a buck track?
The size and width. Buck tracks are bigger than does for the most part. They're wider at the back. They're boxy looking. After looking at a lot of tracks, you learn how to tell. A lot of times bucks will drag their feet. And of course, if they make a rub or a scrape, and often bucks will go to doe tracks. They'll check out tracks of does. All those things help clue you in that you're on a buck track.
Now, you need the right conditions, though, too. If you're gonna try to track a buck, you need the wind helping you out. You can't have the wind behind you, I would imagine.
Right, and most often these bucks I've tracked do go into the wind, but sometimes they go crosswind. One thing that was an advantage yesterday, we had 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts in the Keweenaw, which helps cover any noise you might make when you're following a deer. If you get close to it, there's less chance of spooking it.
I find this really interesting, even fascinating to I've never done it. I've always wanted to do it in southern Michigan cornfields, but I've never done it. I've never pulled it off. But it seems like a way to really, I don't want to say put you at the same level as the deer, but maybe it takes a challenge to a next level. That's for sure.
Exactly. That's what it does.
You also mentioned that you were reminding folks in the lower that you can bait in the UP. Boy, in a lot of cases, Richard, that a lot of UP hunters would have a hard time killing a deer if you weren't able to bait, wouldn't they?
It would certainly reduce the harvest, and especially in country like the Keweenaw, where I hunt, where deer numbers are very, very low. Baiting helps bring does in, and then the does will bring bucks in.
Are those deer numbers low traditionally, or is it because factors in the UP are working against them lately that the deer numbers in the Keweenaw are low?
Well, they've been always low. It's the furthest north county in the state. It traditionally gets a tremendous amount of snow during the winter, which reduces the carrying capacity of the habitat to carry as many deer as other parts of the state. But, those have been protected in the Keweenaw from gun hunters for many, many years. And since 2015, antlerless deer have been protected from bow hunters in the Keweenaw as well. I've seen that clearly does not work, protecting does from hunters, either bow hunters or gun hunters. There's areas where I used to hunt out of a tent camp in the Keweenaw where I took a ride to look for fresh tracks after the snow, and I only found a couple tracks in an area where there used to be a lot of deer. So protecting does from hunters does not help the situation as far as improving the deer population.
Richard, I want to follow up on that, but first we've got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking to Richard P. Smith. You can learn more about him on his website at richardpsmith.com. That's richardpsmith.com. Richard normally makes a book tour, a signing tour this time of the year before Christmas. He's not going to this year, but we'll talk more about that. I've got to follow up on deer numbers. What else? Oh, I'll get his thoughts on the fact that there's a wolf advisory meeting coming up next week. Any topic I throw at Richard, I mean, I can pull it out of the air. I can throw it at Richard, and he knows about it, and he has interesting comments. And we'll follow up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us in Iron Mountain on WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Wilds Plumbing and Heating. From plumbing, heating, air conditioning, ductwork cleaning, sump pumps, you name it. Anything to keep you comfortable and warm and dry in your house, the folks from Wilds will take care of it. In fact, their motto, their slogan is whatever it takes. I don't care what kind of a company it is. If you can deal with a company, a group of people that say whatever it takes to make our customers happy, that's a group that I want to work with. I've worked with the folks at Wilds for many years, and I hope that partnership continues. I've used them now in 2 different houses for many, many different projects over many years. I invite them into my home. I am confident that you can invite them into yours, and they will do a good job, whatever it takes. The website, wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's wildsplumbingandheating.com. Speaking of websites, while you're online, I would encourage you to check out the website of Richard P. Smith. It is richardpsmith.com. How cool is that? richardpsmith.com. And in fact, I have Richard P. Smith on the end of the Outdoor Magazine phone line right now. He is pausing his drive back from the Keweenaw, where he's been deer hunting, to his home in Marquette. And, Richard, it's always a pleasure. I appreciate your time.
No problem, Mike. I always enjoy talking to you.
Let's see, where were we? Following up on deer hunting, it amazes me that in Michigan, deer hunting is so many different things to so many different people. You know, you've been in the Keweenaw, you've been in the snow, you've been in some fairly remote country, and yet at the same time, Richard, people were in the southern part of the state hunting over cut cornfields in the back 40 in subdivisions even. It's an interesting mix that we have of deer hunters in Michigan. Yes, it is. We've got a little bit of everything. And you have covered those stories over the years with your stories of Michigan deer hunters. Traditionally, Richard, you like to make a book signing tour this time of year. Once again, still not this year. It's not going to happen, though, is it?
No, because of the virus, the uncertainty of how businesses are able to deal with book signings, I had to forego it again in another year this year.
But people can buy your books on the website, correct?
Correct. They can go to my website and make purchases of books or DVDs there. And, of course, the stores like Jay's that stocks my books and DVDs have them as well. Excellent. Perfect.
Continuing on the deer hunting theme for a little bit longer, you have never made a secret of your thoughts on how we should be managing whitetails in Michigan, and those thoughts don't always align perfectly with other groups or the DNR or the NRC.
Correct. Unfortunately.
What are you thinking we should do, Richard, that we're not? What are we doing wrong?
Well, the Upper Peninsula deer herd is being tremendously mismanaged. It has been mismanaged since 2008 when the Natural Resources Commission adopted a regulation putting animal restrictions on both buck tags on UP combo tags. This year, as example, I passed up many yearling bucks with spikes, 3 points, 4 points. Because of those regulations, I always buy a combo license to increase my hunting time and hunting opportunity. We have those regulations result in trying to carry too many deer through severe winters. And many of those bucks that hunters have been forced to pass up by those regulations have died during the winter. We have lost over 100,000 deer during the winter since 2008 that hunters should have and could have harvested if we retained the same regulations as the rest of the state with one tag unrestricted on the combo licenses. In fact, the DNR recommended that for this fall, and the Natural Resources Commission shot it down without any scientific backing to support their decision. It's very frustrating. And bow hunters in most of the UK can't shoot antlerless deer. It doesn't save deer. It just changes how those deer die. They die on roads. They die from predators, other accidents. it's terrible management. It prevents hunters from harvesting deer they should be able to, and allows a higher winter loss of deer during our severe winters. Terrible management.
Is it still the case that UP bow hunters can't use a crossbow in the late season as well?
For most of the UP, in the CWD management zone in Dickinson County and parts of Menominee County, hunters can use a crossbow in that CWD management zone, but nowhere else in the UP can archer hunters use crossbows. That's another example of terrible management. It would increase hunting opportunity with minimal impact on the deer population, and would allow hunters to harvest some deer that otherwise would die during the winter that follows.
When you keep coming back to this, a certain percentage of these deer are going to die from other methods. Why not let the hunters harvest them and take advantage of it?
That's it. It's common sense. That makes sense. And that's why I formed a group, Deer Hunters for Responsible UP Deer Management, to try and challenge the decisions made by the Natural Resources Commission. I've filed in Ingham County Circuit Court to appeal those decisions, and the court still hasn't made a decision. Meanwhile, the group I represent could use donations to help with legal fees. I've got a GoFundMe page, and donations can be sent direct to my address as well.
Do you feel like David and Goliath? I mean, the DNR, the NRC, these are pretty big state bureaucracies you're fighting here, Richard.
Yes, but it's not the DNR. The DNR made the recommendations for better deer management in the UP. It's the Natural Resources Commission that shot those recommendations down.
Still, I mean, it's just you, little old Richard P. Smith in the UP, and you're fighting the NRC.
Well, somebody had to do it. We've been under these regulations since 2008, and the deer population is plummeted. The buck kill is declining dramatically. And what more do they need? The DNR has the statistics and the data to show those regulations are not working, and in fact, they have a negative impact on the deer population. It is time for a change.
Is it the rough winters, or is it wolf predation, or is it a combination of factors that's knocking down the deer herd in the UP, or loss of habitat, deer yards?
Well, it's a combination of factors. Trying to carry too many deer through severe winters contributes to the loss of winter habitat. Too many deer eat as much as they can in that winter habitat before they die, reducing the carrying capacity of that winter habitat. It's a vicious cycle.
I see the Wolf Advisory Committee is meeting next week, but nobody's talking very optimistically that we're going to have a wolf hunt here in Michigan anytime soon, for sure.
That's correct. It's very unlikely, highly unlikely, with the current administration in the politics involved in wildlife management in Michigan today, that even the Wolf Advisory Committee will make recommendations, but they're non-binding recommendations. The DNR doesn't have to take the recommendations or do anything. It's all for show.
Well, and you know, the antis have become so vocal and they're so well funded and they're so astute at PR and public relations. I think they've scared the powers that be in Lansing. They just don't want to deal with them.
Right. All those people represent votes, and politicians, as we know, want as many votes as they can, and they're going to go the way the wind blows.
So, Richard, what's on your agenda for the rest of the season now?
Well, I hope to take part in the muzzleloader season. I have one more tag left, and that starts on Friday, this Friday before your show airs. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I'll be able to participate in the late archery season because I can no longer draw my compound bow, and I'm prohibited from hunting with a crossbow in the UP. I used to love hunting the late archery season. Those regulations we currently have is prohibiting me and hundreds of others, if not thousands of other hunters in UP, from participating in that season.
Is your UP muzzleloader season still truly a muzzleloader season? Because down here, downstate, you can use about anything in the late season now.
Right, it's truly a muzzleloader season in the UP. Those hunters who want to hunt with a muzzleloader, the UP is a good place to go.
Richard, it's always so interesting to talk with you. I mean, when you look at your, I think, actually, and I've told this story before, the first time I ever saw a bear in the wild was with you in the UP. In fact, it may have been the Keweenaw or Marquette or somewhere. It was at a dump, and
It was at
Copper Harbor. Yes, it was. Oh, and you know what else I found the other day? I was going through some old slides, and I found slides that I had taken of Moose Lift number 1 at the Pashiki grade when they released those animals there. And I was thinking you were at that as well. Richard, you have covered the outdoors here in Michigan for a long, long time, and you've done a great job of it.
Thank you. And so have you.
Well, I appreciate it, but you've been around longer than I have, Richard, and I have learned a lot from you, as a lot of people in Michigan have. So keep up the good work.
Thanks. I plan on it.
All right. We all plan on it, right? It's just we'll be around as long as somebody has plans for us. Richard, Dustin, I'll let you get back on the road. Drive safe, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Richard P. Smith. Again, his website is richardpsmith.com. Now, normally, if you live downstate, you'd be able to see Richard, but not because of the COVID and the way everything is. He's taken one more year off that. But check out his website, richardpsmith.com, richardpsmith.com. I've had him on the show here before talking about his walking with whitetails and walking with black bear, and they're fascinating stories. If you can find a series of pictures he shot out west years ago, and I don't remember if it was Yellowstone or somewhere else, but he was with a federal agent. I don't know if it was a game warden or a fish and wildlife guy, and they were releasing a problem grizzly. And Richard has a series of pictures he took of when they're letting this grizzly out of this barrel trap, and the animal turned around and he went after the agent. Very, very interesting images. And, of course, those pictures were basically stolen from Richard and put out on the internet, and people were using them without credit to him, and that's the way of the world. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, a few more things I want to talk about, and of course we'll wrap it up after that with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. That's right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the show in Muskegon on WKBZ, that's 1090 AM. You can hear us in Marquette on WDMJ, 1320 AM. And in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. In fact, I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. While I'm here for this 3 hours, this one small corner of the building I have called the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. I'm here with Pat Johnston, who's doing a wonderful job as always. And we've actually had some challenges this week. And I think we handled them very well. But there were some phone problems going on here, and we ended up recording the show. Every phone call that we made to guests this week was on my cell, and I put it on a speaker, and we put a microphone next to the phone, and it's actually turned out pretty well, Pat. I mean, it's not an ideal situation, but it actually has turned out pretty well. And you think about the number of shows that we have done over the years, the number of hours that we've been in this studio, and I don't want to jinx this, but technically we've had a pretty good run. I mean, there are some things that go wrong once in a while, but overall, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, we've got a pretty good track record of getting shows out there. And I will tell you this, I do record a new show every week. If something happens that you're hearing a repeat show, it's not because we didn't record a new one, because we do every week. I don't care what's going on. We recorded a new show every week for years and years and years. But every once in a while, something technically happens where there is a problem, where a show gets repeated at a local level. And again, it's those things happen. A lot of moving parts here to put this all together and to get the show uploaded or up on the FTP site and all this stuff. So a little look behind the scenes here. Before I forget, though, this segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by my friends at Reeder Landscaping. Reeder can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reeder create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. And you're thinking, Avery, this time of year, I don't really care about an outdoor getaway, right? I look out the back window and there's snow and it's blowing and it's frozen and I don't really want to be out there. Well, I get that. But start to think about next year and dream about next spring and having this oasis in your backyard or your vacation property. That's where the folks from Reeder can help you out, as they have for me, and they also do some maintenance in my place as well. Check them out online at reederlandscaping.com. That's reederlandscaping.com. Okay, what else is on my list here? It is December. Welcome to the month of December. How did that happen? I don't know, but December does mean what? Christmas is coming up just around the corner. If you have a hunter on your list, a couple of ways. I have a couple of suggestions here. If you go to the Primal or the Outdoor Pregame websites and use a couple of codes, and I'll give them here just in a minute, you can save a lot of money on some great Christmas gift ideas. For example, go to the Primal Tree Stands website, primaltreestands.com, and put in the promo code Avery, and you can get one of those Wraith see-through ground blinds that I love so much and I've used for deer, bear, and turkeys for $199 and change. It is a great blind at a great price, and it would be an outstanding Christmas gift idea for the hunter on your list. I have deer hunter, bear hunter, turkey hunter. They're safe. They protect you from the elements, and they let you see out, and the critters can't see in. So primaltreestands.com, use the promo code Avery, or you can go over to outdoorpregame.com and use the promo code Mike20 there. Same great discounts and it'll make the hunter on your Christmas list very, very happy. I can promise you that. What else? Speaking of the holidays, our ham for the holidays every Wednesday night as we do our Wednesday Night Live. Now, this is kind of a live online program. It's about 45 minutes long. We've been doing these for about 5 years now. We go live on my Instagram, my Facebook, my YouTube, my Twitter, and my LinkedIn. And it gives you a chance. It gives us a chance to interact directly. Like right now, as I'm talking here on the radio show or the podcast into a microphone, into the studio here, it's kind of a one-sided conversation. I get that. I appreciate you listening, but it's kind of one-sided. The Wednesday Night Live shows, it's more of an interaction. It's more of a give and take. You can make comments in real time. I can respond to those directly, and it's a lot of fun. We really do have a lot of fun. And now, through January 1st, for the holiday season, we do a ham for the holidays. I say we. It's not we. It's not me. It's the folks from Michigan Brand Meats, the Grillo family from Michigan Brand, michiganbrand.net. Every Wednesday night, they give us a ham for the holidays, and we give them away to you. We had a Michigan Brand ham, a spiral cut, honey glazed ham, at the Avery house for Thanksgiving. Now, yes, we had a turkey too, but we always have a ham for every holiday at the Avery house, and I appreciate working with the folks at Michigan Brand. What else? My hunting activities. I still haven't taken a deer. Not for lack of trying, and I've had several opportunities to take big does. Haven't had a shot at a buck that I would want to take this year. Don't anticipate that will happen, but I still would like to take a big doe. Take her with my Darton crossbow. Last time I was out, conditions were perfect. I was in what I thought was a great spot. All I had was one doe fawn come wandering through. That was it. I want to see her mama. I want to see her grandma. That's what I want to shoot. And we'll see. If it happens, it happens. If not, ain't no big deal. If you're looking for some great walleye action, Saginaw Bay is absolutely on fire right now. You can head down to Lake Erie as well, but for a lot of people, Saginaw Bay is closer. Head out of Linwood Beach Marina, go straight out to 17 feet of water, linwoodbeachmarina.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. So glad to have you along with us this week here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. If you've listened to the show before, you know that I love to wrap up each week's program with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. Dave, a good friend of mine, worked with him forever. We used to work together back in the old, on the TV show. He was with us every week, and he's been on almost every Outdoor Magazine radio show for years and years, and he joins us once again. David, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Michael. How about yourself?
Hey, I'm doing real good. I have not killed a deer yet, though. I'm not done, but I'm starting to lose a little bit of interest. How are things going at your camp?
We got two. Roger got that one that had broken off right side, so it was actually a 3-point instead of a 6. And Terry got a real nice 8.
Oh, excellent! And how about the young guys that came up? Did they ever have any luck?
No, not yet. They'll be up for muzzleloader season 2, though.
So you haven't.
Archery.
So you're still out there. Okay, sounds good.
Oh yeah, do our best. Normally we get between everybody hunting here, 6 to 7 deer off of the property, but 2 this year, so it's different year.
Well, and every year is different. But how about, say, if somebody shot a buck or a big doe, and they're looking for a nice, basic but hearty venison recipe? What do you suggest?
Well, we've got the stuffed cabbage leaves that we did for the show, and we make this for home use a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I've done it for quite a bit. So it's stuffed cabbage with venison. I've actually used it with goose and wild boar, too. So it's a pretty universal dish. So
perfect.
You're going to need... It's going to make quite a large pan, and you're going to bake it in the oven. So you need about 2.5, maybe 3 pounds of ground venison. And I like to use a little kosher salt in this and black pepper, grind a lot of black pepper into it. And get a couple of cans of the larger cans of sauerkraut, or the bags, however you like, the refrigerated one or whatever your desire is. And a lot of garlic, like maybe 6-7 cloves of garlic diced up real fine. You need a 46-ounce can of good tomato juice. Do not scrimp on getting the better tomato juice. And you need a couple of tablespoons of caraway seed, more or less to your taste. This is kind of a Scandinavian dish, so they use caraway a lot. 1 to 2 heads of cabbage, medium to large. You need about 2 cups of rice that's raw. And then you want to boil it for maybe 5 minutes and strain it off. 6 beaten up eggs real good, 1.5 cups or so of dry breadcrumbs. I like to use Italian spice in this, and you could use either beer or milk to moisten this up. So in a real large pan, like a stock pot, bring a couple of gallons of water to a boil. You want to cut away the circle where the root is the stem, cut down into there quite deep, and get rid of all of the real dark leaves. And you're going to submerge the heads one at a time, upside down, with a big fork or something. Hold it down for, maybe a minute or 2. And over your sink or over a pan, you want to take and peel off the leaves that are going to come off really easy. And you keep doing that, pushing it down, peeling it off, push it down, peel it off until you get all of them off. So put that aside, let it drain a little bit. So in a large mixing bowl, mix everything up except for the caraway seed and the tomato juice and the kraut. So mix all of that. If it's a little dry, you could either add the beer or more milk. So you want to trim that inside heavy-duty leaf, the stem part out. Turn them upside down, make a whole bunch of them, And then make smaller packets of this meat. Roll it up, starting at where the stem would be. Fold it in and roll some more. You want to make it kind of tight so they don't fall apart. So place sauerkraut down, put your packages of the meat and cabbage, sprinkle a little caraway seed, maybe a little more black pepper. Keep doing that until you're all done with all of the meat and all of the ingredients. Apple, tomato juice, and a little more sauerkraut. And you want to, because this is going to be real heavy-duty acidic food, and so it's going to eat up the foil. So you want to put plastic wrap, a real good food-grade plastic wrap, then the foil. So, you're going to crimp it real good. Bake 350 degrees, and it could take up to 2 hours or more, maybe, to make sure that cabbage is tender. And if you serve this with, boiled potatoes and carrots maybe mixed together, just a killer dish. You can do this at home and then take it to deer camp. Put it in the oven. Or if you made it in a Dutch oven, you could do the same thing. Put it next on the fire, but have it go real slow, over the coals. You've got that capability. And just a great dish. Like I said, we've sold this at the restaurant for 30 years, and people love it.
I remember it being excellent, but you did make me a little nervous when you said it's so acidic it's going to eat the aluminum foil.
Right. That's why you want to put the saran. It's a very acidic dish, stuffed cabbage. Cabbage sauerkraut really is an acidic dish.
Well, it's a good one. I remember it, though, Dave. It's an excellent taste. Excellent taste. Listen, I appreciate that recipe. Good luck to you and the crew there at camp, and we'll talk to you next time. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, and I appreciate him joining us every week here as he helps us to wrap up the show on a high note with always an outstanding fish or wild game recipe. All right, my friends, appreciate you joining us this week. Fastest 3 hours of my week right here. You can reach out to me. I'd love to have you. Reach out to me. Send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Check out the website, mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Don't forget about the Wednesday night live shows, the social media streams. I'm out there just about everywhere. Love to interact with you. Have a great week, and I look forward to talking with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.